This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore.
So when Republicans took the majority this last midterm election, and then took subsequent power, finally, after more than a dozen ballots, to get Kevin McCarthy elected Speaker of the House, they set upon an agenda of, one, just really chaos, investigations. That's the drumbeat now, is we got to look in Hunter Biden's laptop. Not in government, whatever, who cares? I mean, great. I think the DOJ's got an investigation, not into the laptop specifically, but something else. Fine. If Hunter Biden broke the law, crack down, punish him. Accountability. He's a person in power. He's connected to power. If you think I'm going to be punching down and trying to protect people in power, you got me wrong. That's not what I do. So do what you got to do with Hunter Biden. If he's found guilty, they find a crime, great. But Republicans on the legislative front, as far as they're actually having power in the House of Representatives, are really just a hodgepodge of nonsense. They're passing a bunch of bills and we're trying to restrict abortion access and access to abortion pills, but there's other things they're doing which really just show a callousness and a lack of concern for their fellow human beings. When I was in the Marine Corps, the last year and change of my time in the Marine Corps was spent in an office because I dislocated my hip and my knee in a training accident. I did a number on myself. They almost had to amputate my leg. It was so bad. And in this office, in that time, they stopped. You weren't allowed to, I never smoked, but you weren't allowed to smoke anymore. It was a big deal when it happened, that smoking is no longer allowed in military and federal buildings. And it was a big deal. And it really made life better. Not being a non-smoker, it was, like, I would forgive the stupid turn of phrase, but it was a breath of fresh air. And it's been that way since like 1997 or something in all federal buildings. Although when I worked for the Senate, after I got out of the Marine Corps, there was an area outside the Senate that was outside the Senate press gallery. And guys like Carl Cameron, who was on, I don't know where he was then, but used to be Fox News. Now he has his own media outlet. He was a smoker. That guy was always out there smoking in the hallway in the United States Capitol. And that always struck me as very weird. And that's because Congress sets its own rules. Congress doesn't abide by, like, there's federal regulations for fire drills and what you have to do with other federal buildings. It doesn't apply to Congress. They set the rules for everybody else except for themselves. It's pretty pernicious and sick. But the same thing goes for smoking. And since the Republicans took back control, apparently smoking's back on the agenda. I'm going to read this these tweets from this journalist from Reuters. So there's indoor smoking on the House side of the Capitol now that Republicans have taken control. Washington, D.C. law bans smoking in all indoor spaces, but it does not apply to the private offices of members of Congress, never has. So when you have a change in party control and they move offices like they just did, if a member who moves into an office is, as in this case, a cigar smoker, you have smoke. So this is what's taking place. I'm going to read from this Bloomberg article that gives a little bit more detail about who these people are. But this is, imagine being a smoker. One, if you smoke, quit smoking. I know it's tough, but it's gross. I know that's probably an unpopular thing to say to people who smoke, but it's gross. It's gross. Your hands smell, as you will see from what I'm reading here from Bloomberg. Anyway, Republicans bring back smoke-filled rooms on Capitol Hill is the headline. There's a lot of history repeating itself in Congress this year. The House is in GOP hands. Democrats control the White House and the Senate. And there's an inescapable stench of tobacco smoke in the Capitol's hallways. The smoke evokes memories of an old guard of Republican House leadership. Former House Speaker, this is the part I want you to hear. Former House Speaker smoked so many cigarettes that new carpets a fresh coat of paint, and an ozone machine were required when Paul Ryan took over his office. Still live in the city, still have to deal with sirens. So I'll clear my throat. So that's how damaging cigarette smoke is. I've heard stories of smokers who rent a place and when they move out, they repaint because the walls are yellow. It has a dangerous effect, a damaging effect, a dangerous effect to people's lungs, the actual physical health of people. Being someone who just survived cancer this year, I can tell you, this is a problem for people. Going back further, the article goes on, David Dreyer, a GOP chairman of the House Rules Committee in the late 90s and early 2000s, was fond of cigars. Today, it's another rules chairman, Representative Tom Cole of Oklahoma, who could be often found smoking in the committee space on the third floor of the Capitol, right outside the press gallery in this case. Former President Bill Clinton signed an executive order in 1997 restricting smoking in federal buildings. A decade later, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi banned smoking from much of the Capitol complex in 2007 when Democrats were in control, though individual members could still permit it in their office space. The first attempt to curtail smoking, this is how far back this goes, was 1871. Under then Speaker James Blaine of Maine, who initiated a ban in the galleries and on the House floor while in legislative session. In 1914, the Senate agreed to eliminate smoking in its chamber. So listen, the reason this is such a slap in the face to people and not caring about people and what the impact of this is on other people is the fact that if you're a staffer working in an office and you got to go deliver documents and you've got some idiot smoking a cigar, some wet, chomped, chewed phallus jammed into the face of some stupid Republican congressman smoking a cigar in his office, it is putting someone's health at risk. And they either have the job or they have to quit if they don't want to be around cancerous carcinogens clogging their system. But this is the priority. This is the priority of Republicans right now. Changing the rules so they can smoke their cigars and their cigarettes in their offices. Like it's not 2023. Anyway, what do you think? 714-576-4054. You can email me daily at dollemore.com. You can follow me on social media. I'm at Dollemore on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. And if you want to support the channel, click the join button, become a channel member, or go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. I love you guys. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.